Sagittarius, welcome to your February 2025 monthly horoscope. My name is Adeana. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and in this video, I will be going over all of the significant energy, themes, topics, and events you will be experiencing throughout the month of February. Now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content. Now, before we get into the monthly horoscope, and for those of you who have not watched one of my monthly horoscopes before, I break it down by week. So there's 4 weeks, and I select a chart for each week to give you a bit of a visual. So let's go over some of the transits for February. February 1st, as soon as we come into the month, we have first Venus forming a conjunction to Neptune at 27 degrees 59 minutes. And then later on in the day, February 1st, Venus will then form a conjunction to the North Node at 28 degrees 9 minutes. February 3rd, we will have Mercury in Aquarius forming a trine to Jupiter retrograde in Gemini at 11 degrees. And February 4th, we will have Venus entering Aries, and then we will have Jupiter stationing direct. This happens roughly about an hour apart. Jupiter is your chart ruler, so you tend to feel these Jupiter stations more so than some of the other signs. February 6th, we will have our North Node Neptune conjunction in Pisces at 28 degrees. February 9th, we have our Mercury Sun conjunction, which is a Mercury cazimi at 21 degrees of Aquarius. And on February 9th, we have Mars retrograde in Cancer, forming a trine to Saturn in Pisces at 18 degrees. February 10th, we have Mercury in Aquarius, forming a square to Uranus and Taurus at 23 degrees. And then February 12th, we have our full moon in Leo at 24 degrees. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time going over the lunations in the horoscope because I do post separate forecasts for every new moon and full moon where I go over the chart for the moon and also all 12 rising signs. So make sure you watch for that. February 14th, we have Mercury entering Pisces. And February 18th, we have the Sun entering Pisces and we start Pisces season. February 23rd, Mars is going to station direct in Cancer at 17 degrees. We have been in this Mars retrograde energy since December 6th and really since October 5th when Mars entered a pre-shadow. So all of the themes and topics Mars retrograde has stirred up for you and all the energy you've been moving through. Now, when Mars stations direct and enters the post-shadow phase, this is when we get resolution, clarification to those themes and topics we were navigating through the retrograde period. February 25th, we will have Mercury forming a conjunction to Saturn in Pisces at 20 degrees. And February 27th, we will have our new moon in Pisces at 9 degrees. Now, this is not an eclipse. However, it's still going to be quite powerful. And so we'll be getting into all of this energy. So the first week of February, February 1st, Venus will still be in Pisces and form a conjunction first to Neptune and then to the North Node. Now, if you have not watched my lunar nodes in Virgo and Pisces forecast, I'm going to link it up here in the video and also at the end of this horoscope. Make sure you check that out. I get into what the lunar nodes are, what the lunar nodes can bring being in Pisces and Virgo collectively, and I also get into all 12 rising signs. So make sure you check that video out. However, just to touch on it lightly in this horoscope, the North Node represents a new direction, a new journey. Excuse me, it usually is. The nodes are very fated, very karmic, and they represent where we are having the eclipses. And so the North Node represents something new. It's where we have the nodes transiting in our chart tend to bring in a lot of change, upheaval, and it's very karmic. And the North Node represents a journey our soul wants to take and experience in this lifetime. And it's kind of the direction we're moving into, where the South Node represents where we need to let something go, release something, or something coming back from the past, because the South Node can represent the past. So in your case, you have the North Node transiting your fourth house of home, family, property, real estate, your private life. Your private life is in the fourth house, and your public life is in the 10th house. So there's going to be a lot of changes in this area of life. And with these activations in Pisces throughout February, you want to pay attention to what is showing up for you because there really is an 18-month story playing out here with this nodal journey. And I believe, throughout the month of February is when we are going to see the first indicators of what that story is going to be and the major themes, topics, and events that we'll be navigating over the next 18 months. And I say 18 months because it takes the nodes roughly about 18 months to transit a sign. And so when Venus forms a conjunction to the North Node and also a conjunction to Neptune, and because we're in Venus pre-shadow, so there's a couple of reasons why I've been telling all the signs to journal this month. I mean, you should always journal, but you really want to be taking notes throughout the month for anything showing up for you, because this can give you an idea of what you'll be navigating through the Venus retrograde period and also through this whole nodal journey. So, but when Venus forms in conjunction to Neptune, this can be very creative energy. This is great for, creative projects. However, Venus rules your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine, and also your 11th house of friends and friendships, social groups, online connections, networking, all your groups and associations that you're kind of connected to is in that 11th house. Also, your hopes and your dreams. You do want to be mindful with Venus conjunct Neptune, where it can be a very romantic energy. It can be a very creative energy. This is sometimes where we can over idealize situations or people. We want to make sure we're seeing things for what they really are, not what we want them to be, and seeing things with rose-colored glasses on, because that can definitely be a thing with Venus conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And then when Venus forms a conjunction to the North Node, there can be something coming in for this whole 18-month journey that's kind of playing out in this area of life. Now, February 3rd, we will have Mercury in Aquarius forming a trine to Jupiter retrograde in Gemini at 11 degrees. And you have Jupiter currently in your seventh house of relationships and one on one connections. So, when Mercury in Aquarius, which is in your third house of communication, your mindset, the third house also rules siblings, cousins, neighbors, community, neighborhood, local travel, vehicles. There's quite a lot packed in there in the third house. When we have like Mercury, which rules communication, mindset, self expression, there can be a really good conversation taking place within your relationship, within a business partnership, within a really important one on one connection, I would say. Um, Pay attention because literally the next day, Jupiter is going to station direct, and there might be something said within this conversation that ends up being some type of insight or milestone to something later on down the road, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I'm feeling intuitively. Now, February 4th, we have Venus entering Aries, and you have Aries in your fifth house of children, creativity, romance, passion. The fifth house represents your hobbies, your interests, what you do for fun. If you like gambling, it shows up in the fifth house. If you like swimming, it shows up in the fifth house. The fifth house is what you like to do in your spare time, your creative projects, and your children too. The relationship with your children and can also be an indicator of having children or energy around your current children. So Venus entering the Aries in the fifth house, Venus is going to station retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries. So, whatever is, surfacing in this area of life, we want to pay attention to themes, topics, events, because they can be, it can be something we're reassessing, revisiting over the next few months. Now, Jupiter is going to station direct in your seventh house. Your energy can start to feel a little bit lighter. Sometimes in Jupiter's retrograde, we can feel a little bogged down. I find, especially with Sagittarius rising, um, But this is really great energy. And you may have found, like, over the last year or so, or over the last year, because Jupiter entered Gemini last spring 2024, there may have been a lot of focus on relationships and one-on-one connections. February 6th, we're going to have our North Node Neptune conjunction in Pisces at 28 degrees. And again, this is when something can be highlighted or presented that is a part of this nodal journey in this fourth house of home, family, property, real estate. Um, for some of you, maybe you're thinking about selling a home, maybe you're thinking about buying a home. I'm sure for some of you, that will be the case with this North Node in the fourth house. Also, too, I'm sure for some of you, not all of you, but some of you, it will also be the case that there will be children, pregnancies, because that's your home changing. Venus in the fifth house of children. There's clear indicators here that can be a thing as well. And not everyone, but I guarantee some of you out there will have that show up. Also creative projects and things like that. But when Neptune forms a conjunction to the North Node, you definitely want to pay attention to what shows up at this time because sometimes these things may not seem significant in the moment. But when we write them down in our journal and we reflect, a couple months later on down the road, we realize, oh my gosh, this showed up. This was kind of a window, like showing me, what this journey was going to be. And sometimes it can actually be, I would say educational, but informative and insightful. Like you can really see how the astrology plays out and tells a story when you're paying attention. On February 9th, we're going to have our Mercury Sun conjunction, which is our Mercury Cazimi in Aquarius, which is in your third house. So, this is your mindset. This is your self expression, how you communicate, how you think, how you learn, how you speak, how you write. This is all represented in the third house. Um, there can be something highlighted at this time. Like usually during Mercury Cazimis, we get some type of epiphany or insight. Mercury rules your um, seventh house of relationships and one-on-one connection. So it can have to do with a relationship or one-on-one connection. But we also want to keep in mind that Mercury is now the dispositor, the ruler of the South Node in Virgo, which is in your 10th house of career and your public image, what you're known for out in the world, your legacy, also leadership and authority. So there can be something showing up for you on this day as well around your career. Maybe you have a conversation with somebody, or maybe overhear of a position opening. You want to pay attention on the 9th of February, what's showing up, because Mercury Cazimis can be quite insightful and can bring in beautiful opportunities if we're paying attention. On the same day, February 9th, we will also have Mars retrograde in Cancer forming a trine to Saturn in Pisces at 18 degrees. And you have Cancer up here in the eighth house of your partner's finances, also joint investments, loans, also taxes and inheritances in that eighth house. Money coming in from outside resources is all in that eighth house. Also, psychological healing and transformation is represented in the eighth house, and occult topics are in the eighth house as well. Secrets are in the eighth house, and the eighth house also has this death and rebirth energy. It's very transformational. So Mars retrograde may have stirred up and it's going to show up for all of you differently. For some of you, Mars retrograde may have stirred up, issues, challenges, or changes with your partner's finances or with a loan that you have with some debt. Um, or psychological healing, bringing old psychological wounds to the surface so that you can heal and transform them and transcend. These are all things that can be highlighted with that Mars retrograde in the eighth house. Now, when Mars forms a trine to Saturn, this is where you can have some really supportive energy coming in. Saturn depending on your personal relationship with the malefic planets, whether Mars is your most malefic planet or Saturn, Saturn represents commitment, responsibility, discipline, boundaries. Sometimes Saturn can bring limitation, challenge, hardship. Saturn energy usually takes time. What I see with this, though, because it is a trine, which is a positive aspect, whatever you've been navigating around the Mars retrograde in the eighth house, whether it's your partner's finances or debt, a loan, or psychological healing and transformation, there's something very positive, very long lasting, very foundational. And I say foundational because it's almost like something's coming in that you can grow upon. And I'm feeling that intuitively. I hope that makes sense. This is also a very emotional energy because this is a water trine. And so, generally speaking, collective energies, I've talked a lot about the Mars retrograde in Cancer, bringing up um, emotions that have been suppressed, whether it has to do with old family dynamics or relationships, but a lot of old emotions surfacing so that you can move through, heal, and let go. Because we're in a lot of ending karmic cycle energy, where, and that's again part of this North Node in Pisces. Now, once we get to the second week of February on the 10th, we have Mercury in Aquarius forming a square to Uranus and Taurus at 23 degrees. So Mercury will still be in Aquarius. And Uranus is in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine. So, this is where there can be something possibly showing up at work you're having to navigate. Squares can sometimes bring tension, a stop, or a hold to something. February 12th, we're going to have our full moon in Leo at 24 degrees. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on the lunations because I do post separate forecasts going into the chart and all 12 rising signs. However, this full moon is in your ninth house of higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, philosophy, religion, belief systems, teaching, publishing, astrology is in the ninth house. So those themes and topics are all being highlighted at the time of this full moon in Leo. Now, February 14th, we have Mercury entering Pisces, bringing more energy to that fourth house. On the 18th, we have the Sun entering Pisces, bringing more energy to that fourth house of home, family, property, real estate. And then February 23rd, we have Mars stationing direct in Cancer at 17 degrees. So Mars has been retrograde since December 6th. And we've been in this Mars retrograde energy really since October 5th when Mars entered pre-shadow. So whatever you've been navigating the last few months, now is when you will gain resolution, clarification, and solutions to whatever you've been navigating in this area of life. Now, once we get to the final week of February, on the 25th, we will have Mercury forming a conjunction of Saturn and Pisces at 20 degrees. And this is where maybe you have a conversation with a family member. Again, it's that Saturn energy. So it can be insight or a conversation or something coming in, information, a message that ends up, again, it's part of that. You want to journal what's showing up for you because it may not seem significant at the time, but later on down the road, it can be part of this North Node in Pisces journey that's playing out over the next 18 months. February 27th, we're going to have our new moon in Pisces at 9 degrees. And where this is not an eclipse, it's still quite powerful and intense and will still bring in significant energy themes and topics for this 18-month journey. So we definitely want to be intentional with the intentions we're setting at the time of this new moon in Pisces. Sagittarius, I hope this helps you navigate the energy for February 2025. This kind of gives you an idea of the areas of life, where the planets are working with and activations and where this is taking place. And don't forget that the entire month of February, Venus is going to be pre-shadow, working with this fourth and fifth house area. So whatever topics, themes, energy, events are showing up, you want to make note because those can be things you're revisiting when Venus stations retrograde March 1st and will be retrograde until April 12th. So that's when we reassess, revisit, reevaluate, whatever has shown up during the pre-shadow period. So if you don't forget to, if you align with my energy and enjoy my content, to like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you would like to book a one-on-one consultation with me, I have put the link in the description below. Check out my website for quite a few one-on-one consultations. I also offer pre-recorded readings as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will connect with you in the next one.